Hey, welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Shanae, and today I'm going to show you how to make homemade pizza dough. Not just any pizza dough though. This recipe yields super light and airy, yet crispy and chewy and very flavorful pizza crust. You're going to love it. I learned to make pizza dough about 2 years ago at the North American Pizza and Culinary Academy in Chicago from the master pizzailo Leo Spizzeri. Every pizza recipe requires 4 basic ingredients, and the ratio of each ingredient and the order you put them in to make the dough yields different results. And in this video, I'm going to share with you all the tips and tricks in the process. And if you're interested, keep on watching. And for this recipe, you will need flour, water, olive oil, salt, and yeast. Let's talk about flour very quick. Ideally, you want to use high protein flour, such as bread flour. In a pinch, all-purpose flour will work, but high protein flour yields crispier, chewier crust. I usually use this Neapolitana 00 flour, which I got it off of Amazon, and I'll put my affiliate link in the description below. This also high protein flour straight from Italy yields really delicious pizza crust. I usually keep this huge bag in my freezer and it lasts me for a long time. Also, as far as the yeast, I like to use instant yeast from Red Star Yeast Platinum. Although I partnered with them in the past, this video is not sponsored. What I like about this yeast is because it's an instant yeast, you don't have to proof it in a warm water before mixing the dough, and you can just put it in with the flour. However, you can use active dry yeast, and you will need to proof it before using, and I'll put all the details in my recipe card on my website. Also, extra virgin olive oil adds really amazing flavor and keeps the dough nice and soft. Salt is very important. Without salt, this crust will be flavorless. The amount of water also very important because every pizza dough has a different hydration level, and the more hydration the pizza has, the crispier and lighter it is. But for average home cooks, for us, 60-65% hydration is ideal. It's easy to handle, but they're not as light and airy like 70% hydration. I'm going to make 65% hydration in my dough today. In my recipe card, I will include the ratios so that you can decide which hydration level you want to use. First thing we'll do is we'll make a well in the middle of the flour, like so. And I like to do it by hand because it's just easier, but you can also use stand mixer. In the stand mixer though, you wanna add water first and then flour. That way it mixes easier. So now we will put water. Water doesn't have to be warm or anything because again, we're using instant yeast and it doesn't need to be proofed. And into the water, we're going to sprinkle in our yeast. And then hold our hand like this. This is a claw shape. And then we'll gently stir the mixture from the middle and then slowly incorporating flour from the walls. It's easier if you keep it slow. That way your flour will hydrate better. It's a little messy process, but I love it. It's therapeutic. You want to feel the dough. It's just so good. You can also involve your kids. I involve my kids all the time. They're super cute. They love making pizza. So yeah, slowly incorporate the flour. See how it's getting thicker and thicker. So when the dough is shaggy like this, not completely incorporated, but for the most part it's one ball, we will add olive oil. The reason we are adding olive oil before the salt is because we want a crispier crust. Now, if you want softer crust, add the salt first and then add olive oil later. So now rest the dough for about 5 minutes and then we'll add the salt and we'll knead the dough a little more. So I forgot to mention you need to cover your dough so that it doesn't dry out. And now we'll go ahead and add the salt and then kneaded well. We'll start kneading in the bowl first, and then we'll transfer into the counter. You can lightly flour your work area. And then this is how we want to knead the dough. It's really easy. There's nothing to be afraid of. The dough is really easy to handle. As you can see, it's not too sticky because 65% hydration is not actually that bad. We're going to use heels of our hand and then push it and then turn it back onto the dough. Push it and then turn it back onto the dough. Like this. And then when it's like log like this, we'll turn it and then do the same thing again. We'll keep doing it for about 3 to 5 minutes. And in the process, your dough is going to get smoother and smoother, but it's not quite there yet. It won't get there until we're going to let it rise for a little bit. After a few minutes of kneading, you can do one of two things. You can either leave the dough on the floured counter and cover it with your bowl like this and let it sit for about 20 minutes to up to 2 hours. It's up to you, but 20 minutes is actually good enough. Another alternative is you can oil the bowl and then put the dough like this, cover it, and put it in a warm place for about 20 minutes or so. It depends if you need the area or not. I'm gonna just leave it like this for about 20 minutes. So my dough has been resting for a while and I'm going to knead. We're not looking for a good rise or anything. Look at this, how beautiful and smooth the dough is. Exactly how you want it. We'll knead for a little bit and we're going to divide this dough into 3 equal parts. Now this recipe yields about 250 grams of pizza dough balls. You can measure it if you're like me. I like to measure everything just to be precise. By the way, this kind of silicone dough scraper is very handy. I didn't use it as much today, but comes in really handy. Now we're going to make a nice smooth balls. Just knead it again the same way. Smooth it out and bunch up all the creases on the bottom and pinch it. And you have a really nice dough ball. And place it on a baking tray lined with a plastic wrap. I like it that way because it's easier to handle later. Beautiful dough balls. I can already see little bubbles forming. And that's actually a good sign. We want those air bubbles. You're not gonna make pizza straight away with this dough the same day because we'll go through the process of slow fermentation, which means you're going to put this pizza dough balls in the fridge for at least 24 hours or up to 3 days. Slow fermentation develops flavor in your dough. That's how you get really complex flavor. The longer it sits in the fridge, the more flavor it will get. But 24 hours is perfect. That's what I usually do. Make sure to cover it really well so there's no air goes into the dough balls, and not too tight because the dough is going to slowly rise, and into the fridge it goes. So yesterday I made double batch of my pizza dough, and look at this gorgeousness. It's been sitting at the room temperature for about 90 minutes. So when you're ready to use your dough balls, you want to bring them to room temperature for at least hour and a half or 2 hours. How gorgeous is this? Now I'm going to take out one dough ball. Make sure to have your countertop floured. And I'm going to show you how to shape and stretch your pizza crust. Handle this dough really gently. You don't want to deflate all that air bubbles in the dough. Beautiful, super light. I love how light it is. You don't want to use too much flour because you're going to throw off your hydration percentage. I'm going to show you how to properly stretch the dough. You don't want to use any rolling pin because it will just flatten out all that air bubbles and you won't get nice texture. Draw an imaginary line inside the dough, leaving 1 finger thick of dough around the edges. So what I mean is basically run your finger like this. This, oh my goodness, look at this bubble. Just burst it for a little bit. These bubbles are precious. This is what you want your pizza dough look like. So what we're doing is framing the pizza dough, and this crust is going to be nice and light. My son's favorite part of pizza. This is called cornicini. Cornicini means frame, so basically we're framing it. Now we draw a line, and now using this part of your fingertips, press from the middle toward the top of the frame, stretching it. Basically making dimples, like so. And then turn it around, and I can see the line here, and then do the same thing. The reason we don't want to push out from the bottom to the top is because in the process you'll flatten out all the air bubbles. So we're going to go like halfway and then stretch it out. Turn it around and stretch it again. And you can burst these air bubbles because in a hot oven they will get burnt. Don't burst all of them though. Also, another tip is if your dough is not stretching well and it just shrinks back, that means your dough is too cold and you'll just need to rest the dough for a little bit and then try again. Don't force the dough too much because then you'll overwork your dough and it will get really tough and dense pizza crust. This is really easy to handle pizza dough. I'm not going to show you any tricks or anything, but we're going to use the gravity to stretch our pizza, just using your knuckles and stretch it. Again, we're trying to keep all our air bubbles in the pizza crust, so it creates that light and airy texture. And don't worry, if you make a hole or anything, you can just go ahead and patch it up. And I'm not going to throw this pizza dough or anything. So you're just going to stretch it a little bit like this. About 10 inches. It's looking really good. Stretch out this frame a little more because it's a little too thick to my liking. Now I have this pizza peel and I'm going to dust a little bit flour. And then now put our pizza crust on top. And then we're going to put the toppings on. I have just simple toppings. Don't go too overboard with the sauce or toppings. Keep it simple. You don't need too much. You don't want too much moisture on the pizza. Just a little bit goes a long way. Like so. Always shred your own cheese because you won't have that anti-clumping agents or anything like that. It melts better. And I also found this super cute mini pepperonis. I think my kids will love it. Super cute. And my oven has been preheating to 525 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30-40 minutes, I think. And you want to make sure your oven is preheated really well. I also put the pizza stone in to bake it for about 10 to 12 minutes. You just keep an eye on it until it starts looking nice and brown. By the way, you can also freeze this pizza dough after fermentation in the fridge for up to 3 days. You can use this kind of plastic container. Pour a little bit olive oil all over, up the sides and everything. And then place the pizza dough. And then you can freeze it for up to 3 months. And then when you're ready to use, transfer from freezer to fridge the night before, and then bring it to the room temperature before stretching and shaping your pizza. You can also stretch and shape the pizza crust, par bake it in the oven, and then freeze it as well. You could also grill the pizza doughs and then freeze it as well. All this instructions included in my recipe post, so go to my website and check it out. I will put the link in the description below. My pizza is ready. How gorgeous is this? Looks so delicious. Smells amazing. Let's dig in. Look at this crust. Crispy. The moment of truth, you guys. Look at this bubbles. And it's nice and sturdy. You can see nice crust on the bottom. I can't help anymore. Perfection. Crust is so flavorful and so chewy and crispy. Do you guys hear this? And bounces back. This is pizza perfection. I really hope you will give this a try. If you try this pizza dough recipe, please share the picture with me on Instagram, tag me at Shaneshka, or you can also comment on my website on the recipe post. I love hearing from you, and until next time, bye.